was that if I could say that, then what it did was it helped me to get to the place where I had to be able to tell my children, this is how much money we have. This is what I have to pay for us to live. This is what is left. Then everybody went like, oh, do you like living? Do you want us to live this way? We have to drive a car. This is what it takes. That's what it will require, honest answers. Don't just say, well, this is what we're going to do. Say, the reason we're doing this is because this is how much money we have. Now, you probably are going to hear little Johnny and little Ashley say, well, why don't you do something about it? I said, well, why don't you? Don't get defensive and say, I'm doing everything that I can, because everything that you can do is never going to be enough for them. You said, this is where it is at. Now, what you can do about it is make sure you go to school, finish college, and go be better than me. And then you won't ever have to have this problem in your own household. You see what I'm saying? Because you're doing the best that you can. Because you have to show them this is what is going on around you so they see a bigger picture. My daughter, my youngest daughter, grew up in a different time than my oldest daughter. Today, you have very little control over your children. I find that you have very little control over what they think because the social influences are greater than your ability to influence their thoughts. Times changed. So I had to talk to my youngest daughter in a different way than I talked to my oldest daughter. And no matter what I tried to tell her about the realities of life as it is, she wasn't getting it. Right? But you know what worked? We went to an event where a woman my age began talking about what happened to her after divorce. And hearing it from somebody else of a different ethnicity, different racial background, different socioeconomics, hearing that the same things happened to that person, opened her eyes and made her see that this was not mom's fault, that this was something that could happen to anybody at any time. Because look at that woman. She thought that she was, everything was set up and she was going in the right place at the right time. Look what happened. Do you see what I'm saying? And so you have to expose them to a wider body of information. Ask them, what are you reading? What are you looking up? What are you watching? Who are you listening to? Stop letting them hang out with some friends, because if you are perceiving that hanging out with so-and-so is not helping your child, cut it off. Of course, your child is going to fight you, but they are under your control. You can't let the control slip out from under you. You tell them, this is going to change when you turn 18 and go to college. Then you have control over yourself. Go do what you want to do. But as long as you live with me, here are the facts, mister. Here are the facts, miss. You don't like it? Go do what you feel you should do, but you're not coming back here. This is how it's going to go down, and this is how it is. And eventually, whether they like it or not, they're going to accede. Tell them what the realities are. Tell them what it's like to be a runaway. Tell them all the evils that are in the present day. So you think running away is going to make it better for you? Okay, well, here's what happens when you run away. This is what is most likely to happen. Do you see what I'm saying? Because today's young people, they don't have a clue. They think that life is great and that they have control and that everything is everything. And that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. And here is the thing I have found, that their realities that is in their minds is their reality. It is so real to them that you literally are fighting to gain control. And then you have societal influences. There are things that are outside of a parent's ability to control. And so what do you do when faced with this conundrum? And especially, and here's the thing, most of us are reluctant to admit that there might be a history of mental health illness in our families. If you know Uncle so-and-so or so-and-so and you see your child reacting in certain ways, Go get the child tested immediately. Don't wait for that problem to mushroom, because then it becomes unmanageable and it is going to negatively affect the child. Watch the foods that they eat. Make sure they're eating a variety of foods, right? Not just some. And let them take vitamins. Make sure they're taking vitamins. I kid you not. They need a boost. They need supplements to boost them. Look for drug use or signs and symptoms of drug use. And ask questions. Where are you going? Who are you hanging out with? They're coming over. What are you doing in the room? If you're in the house and you're in a room, I don't want any closed doors. Keep that bedroom door open. I want to see what's going on. So that they know that somebody has oversight. And talk to them. Sit down and talk to them. Be there. Even if they choose, let them say you're a helicopter parent. You know, my oldest daughter was telling me something. And she said when she was growing up, she called me a helicopter parent. And you know how the society vilifies helicopter parents. You know, they call us helicopter parents because we're parent. We're doing the job of parenting and hovering over our children so they have the right outcome. And my oldest daughter was saying it took her the end of her first year of college to realize that maybe her mother was not crazy and just way out there. She said, you know, my mother was just this Jamaican lady. She was just like crazy all the time. She was always hovering, telling me what to do, making sure. She said, but I found that I have more drive and ambition. I found that I was motivated to just keep on going when others were just settling. I was just kept on moving and moving. And then she said, but I didn't take drugs. I didn't drink. I avoided getting pregnant because she said I was flat out terrified that if anything, if I got pregnant, my mother was going to kill me. I swear she knew. And so she said it kept her. So she said after a while, as she grew older, she started saying, maybe there's something to this helicopter parenting after all. Maybe she wasn't crazy. You may not get the immediate reward of having your child acquiesce to your will, but you know in time to come, when they look back and they compare themselves to the people whom they thought had the greatest access, they're going to say, my God, I'm so grateful that my parent took the time out to yell at me and to keep me on the straight and narrow. Sometimes in other households, people give their children more access to material things and more access to drugs because they're not there. Sometimes they themselves grew up in broken homes where they thought that material things were what it takes to raise a child. Sometimes they simply don't care. They're busy pursuing their own agendas. So they kind of leave the child to grow up by themselves. And you end up with a case of a broken system and a broken home. The real definition of a broken home is not when one parent is absent. Both parents can be there. What makes a broken home is the conditions that exist in the home that impacts the child negatively. People, like I told my kids the other day, I said, what you don't realize is that rich people just have more money to cover up the stuff that happens in the homes. They can pay off everybody. So they pay off the prosecutor. They pay off everybody else to make sure that they get what they want to get. Right? That's all that it takes. It's not that stuff doesn't happen. It's not that their child didn't get pregnant and they didn't go down to the abortion clinic and do the morning after pill. It's not that their child was never pulled over. It's not that their child wasn't caught smoking or drinking at school. They just paid off everybody. They had more access, so they paid everything off. We need to make sure. So you may not have any, it doesn't mean stuff doesn't happen, because often they paint the perfect picture of a perfect home. And your child is coming on and saying, why can't I be like Josh? They have everything together. And then 2 years later, you hear they're going through a divorce. And that all kinds of stuff was going on. That is why it's important to mirror inside of your home. What are the things that happen to your child? What is it that you want your child to be? You have to tell them, what I want for you to be is to be successful. I want you to be the very best version of yourself. I want you to have all the options that you need to have in order to be successful. I am not going to rob you, but you can't rob yourself. Don't short yourself. The other thing that I find is that children tend to cling to what their peers think. You have to examine their peers and ask your kid, if your friends think this low, what are you doing hanging around low-lying fruit? If this is all they think they can be, what are you doing around them? What do you want to do? Then you have to stretch yourself. You have to challenge your children. I'm saying this because I'm a parent and I find that I have to continually challenge my children. Well, what are you thinking? If you hang around this person, after a while, it's going to be, well, I guess this is just the way it works. And I guess you just keep your head down and you just keep it moving. And that's what it is. No. When are you going to take a stand? Why are you not looking at this from another perspective? My friends, it's our children. They deserve a future. We want the best for them. So we have to continue. The fight is real. The fight is right in our homes. It's right in your child's hands. It's called the phone. Tell them, put the phone down and pick up a book and read it. Go read something and study. Don't you have an exam or a test coming up? Why are you not studying? Get off the phone. That's the kind of conversation you have to have. Hold them accountable. You say you want to do so and so. Why don't you know what you want to do when you're 16? How come you don't want to know what you want to do? What do you mean you don't know? You're just going to go and study what? Bring them the facts. They're going to thank you later. They may not do it now, but I guarantee you they will come back and thank you later. Because to save them from themselves. Because what will happen is in a few years, if they don't go to college and they don't graduate with a degree where they can find employment in, by the time they're 22 and they find themselves still working for a $10, $12 an hour job and they have to live at home, they're going to kill themselves. Because they're going to look at others and say, well, you know, Josh's parents is a doctor, mom is a nurse, mom is a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. That's why. And you're going to say, but you have the option to go to college. What did you do? And some may say, well, even when I went to college and I got an advanced degree, what happened? I said, well, you were fighting a different thing, but keep fighting anyhow. You can't quit. The message is what? Keep fighting. That's the message. The message is you can't quit. So here's some things to remember as we wrap this up. Depression is a factor as it relates to our children. If there's a history of mental illness in the home, we have to be mindful of that. And we have to pay close attention to how that could impact children. If there is drug abuse in the home, if there is alcohol abuse in the home, if there is abuse of drugs of any kind in the home, know that this is going to impact our children. Right? If there's exposure to violence, we can't fight with one another and think it's not going to affect the children. The constant yelling, the constant screaming at one another, calling each other names. Do our children feel safe? We have an issue. Our society is very polarizing. You're black, you're white, you're green, you're yellow. Now the big thing is, are you an immigrant? Those are polarizing issues that divide the society. So if these things divide the society, believe it, if they impact your household, the children are paying the price. The financial stress, people are struggling to make ends meet. Less money in the home. People are not tolerant. Your children are part of social groups where if they don't have the latest and the greatest, frankly, I tell my children, I don't know what those other parents do to have what they have. So I don't envy anybody. I don't know who is not doing what or whatever. But here is what I can afford. And here is where it stops. This is where it stops right here. This is what I can afford. This is where it is. When it improves, you will be improved too. Right? Depression.